we got a packed meeting tonight. Couple really good presentations, and then I added item number 5, just discussion of taking Sirius B, which we kind of did before the recording started. But I'll bring everybody up to date what's kind of going on in the background, and then we got a lot of good heads here that we can figure out how to do it. Okay, start off with any issues that people have that our experts can help you with. Going once? Yep, go ahead.
Really, I feel like a dumb question to ask, but it's
No such thing.
yeah, well, wait till you hear mine. The okay, so I was shooting my flats yesterday, and I noticed pretty much every one of them was trash, and they looked like there was dust bunnies or bubbles all over the images. I mean, it was really bad.
Well,
And I was wondering if maybe because I checked my objective and my filter, I was using an L Pro filter, and I checked it. I didn't see any dust or lint or anything on either one of those. And I was wondering if maybe it could be moisture, like because I brought my scope from outside back inside, but I was running the cooler on it. I was wondering if there's possible that there could be condensation on the sensor causing that.
Can you can you show us a stretch version of it?
yeah, if you could do that, and how big were the circles?
They were pretty big. Well, I mean, they look big, of course, when you're looking at them, but I don't know if I have them. I can send them out later or something, but I'm not sure I have them on this computer.
Yeah.
I think I have them on downstairs.
Well, there's a formula that's available, and I think we sent out over the past couple of years that you can you figure out the size of that dust donut, you can tell it'll tell you how far away from the chip it is.
Oh, so you can tell if it's really close to
If it's
the
on your
sensor.
filter, it's on your, I mean, but
Yeah.
something that's on your objective, I mean, the way out there, you never see it.
The bigger the bunny, the further away it is from the sensor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So,
they were pretty big. So
okay.
I'm guessing they're not right on the sensor then.
Well, if we saw it, a lot of us could probably tell you where it is, actually.
If they're
Oh,
big, they're probably on the filter.
Yes, you can post that on Slack and we'll take a
Yeah,
look at that.
do that.
okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, it could also be on your focal reducer if you got one.
I've got a flattener. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Guess it could have been that.
Easily could be that one.
easily. Yep. Good question. Okay, anything else new, particularly new members help on? All right, let's move on. I was able to twist John's arms. He's had a lot of his planets on the Slack channel, and I asked him to put it into a presentation. And it seems to be with there's a lot of good work being done. John's done a lot of it. I think Brent had getting into it as well. So, John, would you be kind enough to show us your stuff? I just stopped sharing here.
Yeah, we got 45 slides of stuff.
Okay. Well, let's
About
right.
10 minutes per slide, John.
no, let's try to if we got 2 hours tonight maximum. I do want to have a conversation with the Sirius B before we get done. So
No questions till the end of the presentation.
okay, well, and Keith's got a nice presentation about his good work as well. So
Oh wow.
See how this is going to work.
Yep, we got it.
Yay. For
Amazing.
once. Yeah, I think I learned lessons because I didn't like the big TV. I had to use a little monitor on the side. Otherwise, it was fighting it last time. Okay. Planetary imaging and you. What a lovely title. I mainly got a picture of Jupiter there. That was end of the year before last. I think it's 2022, November, December.
Yeah.
Not too bad. So we got a little overview, expectations versus reality, telescope types, hardware, software, accessories, target plan, equipment prep, location, data processing, and some results. And you're going to find little planets scattered through, and some of the moon pictures scattered through the hall of slides and stuff. All these are ones I have taken. So there's only one picture I haven't taken, and that's basically you'll see because it'll be through from Stellarium. So. Okay, so you go out, you buy a scope, and this is what you expect, and this is what you get. You get a bunch of clouds. Open the box, they just magically appear. They drift around the house. They're always in your way. You can't really do anything about it. When I bought my 9.25-inch Edge HD, I couldn't use it for 6 months. It was cloudy for 6 months. I was like, "What's the deal?"
Yep.
So
I'm sure there's a correlation there.
I think the bigger the scope you buy, the more clouds you got to deal
Yes,
with.
the more expensive, the higher number of clouds,
Yeah.
and the longer the time.
Now, the other thing I can do with this picture here is say that I put a bunch of Barlows on it, and this is a picture of the Jupiter's clouds up close.
Yeah, there you go.
So let's see. So you can take you're looking for a picture of the moon. You want a really good close up of craters, and you don't have the right stuff, so you end up with a kind of like blown out picture of the moon that you took with your DSLR and a little bitty lens out backyard or whatever. You're expecting. Everybody goes sees a couple pictures and stuff like that, so they figure, well, let me get a scope. I can get the same type. They go either look through it, they look for certain things, a massive disappointment sets in because it doesn't nowhere look like what the pictures on YouTube or on the internet looks like. And sometimes it could be a downer, sometimes you're like, well, what's the problem? So, another picture of the moon, a little bitty picture of the moon, everybody's expecting the big zoom in, and you don't get quite the zoom in ones. Same thing with Jupiter. You see it kind of up close, and then you really get the one a little bitty far away that's like, I can almost make the bands out. And sometimes you're actually proud of those little pictures that you get with the little bitty bands you can barely see. It's like, yes, I finally got something. 3 hours of searching, and I found it. So telescope types, you need something that's going to have big aperture, long focal length, and a high focal range. So you're not going to be able to get a really good up close picture of Saturn or Jupiter with a little 70 millimeter or 60 millimeter refractor, with like 400 millimeter length. These are the two main scopes I've used for planetary pictures that you'll see mostly through here. Some that are far away for the moon shots are probably with my DSLR through the regular lenses. Otherwise, it's going to be through one of these two scopes. One on the left is my 9.25 Celestron Edge HD. One on the right is actually a Celestron 6 SC. It's actually the first scope I actually bought. I still got the mount for it downstairs, and I've done some moon mosaics with that particular setup, so alt azimuth mount and stuff on. So you can use SCTs, you can use Newtonians, you can use Dobbs, you can do MAC tests. There's probably a few others out there you can use, but you really want big aperture, long focal length. You're gonna need long focal length to be able to see because these are very tiny. You need a big aperture if you want to get more detail out of your planet. So I went the SCT route. I know people that's got the big Dobbs and stuff, 20, 30-inch Dobbs. It'd be nice to be able to put a planetary camera on there and see what you can actually pull out photo-wise when you're all said and done. You need some accessories. You're going to need like focal extenders, Barlows, power mates, pretty much the same thing. Help to have a focus motor, ADC, camera, batteries, cables, filters. Focus mask can be helpful. Flip mirror is optional. But if you look at, I don't know if you can see right here, this here is the ADC. You see my mouse moving or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so right above it's actually a picture of Jupiter, and this is before I got the ADC, and actually I hardly ever used the ADC because I really don't set up my scope that much anymore. But you'll see on the top of the picture it's kind of reddish, and the bottom of the picture is kind of bluish. Because it's kind of, when it gets lower on the horizon, the red and blue kind of separate out. And the ADC has two little prisms in there, and it's got two little slide levers on the left side you can barely make out. They're kind of silver colored here and here. And you'll move those equal distance from each other and it will actually bring that red and blue back together, and it'll give you a better look at it, so you can get a better focus of it. Software can actually take care of that if you don't do it. It's mainly used if you really want to get a little better detail, mainly for focusing. Once you get it focused good, then you can, when you do your videos and stuff, it does look a lot better overall. You got a little focus motor up here. You might want to get one that's got a manual adapter on it if you're going to set out the scope. You want a UV cut filter. Otherwise, you're not going to get a really good, crisp, clear picture. You're just always going to be kind of fuzzy because you can't get a good focus with the infrared and the ultraviolet all in one spectrum. Cut those sections out and get the regular colors in between. Works a lot better. There's a batten off mask. People who use batten off mask, you can do it over to a star near your target, get really good focus. They also have ZWO makes a clear one, and actually makes it even better for seeing your spikes and stuff that goes farther out. I don't have one yet. And so you really get a good focus on that. Then you go to the planet and you find out that you're not really focused perfectly anyway, so you're going to end up focusing even more. So sometimes I don't even use the batten off mask anymore. I've known people in some of the forums have actually used a batten off mask on the Jupiter's moons. They'll focus on the Jupiter's moons with that batten off mask and pull it off, and then you get a really good focus that way. And then there's my little Celestron 2X Barlow sitting right there. But you're going to need like a 2X one, maybe a 3X. And there's a little formula you can use to figure out what you're going to need. Computer hardware, you're going to need a laptop or a mini PC. You're going to want a fast hard drive, not a spinny hard drive. You're going to want a solid state, preferably an NVMe nowadays. You're going to need lots of space because you can do a lot of videos. It gets addictive. You need USB 3.0 speed or higher, faster. You're going to want something to be able to control your telescope. You're going to have something to capture from your camera, and you're going to need some processing software afterwards. So camera types, those are my two proud Saturn Jupiter pictures from back in 2015. I've actually used my DSLR with those through that 6-inch Celestron 6SE. If you got it, use it. I have a little program I can use that actually pulls it off the screen, and then you could I can do a 5x or 10x off the actual screen on the back of it to capture it from there instead of actually through. And it does like I think 30 frames per second. It wasn't too bad. And some of them will actually do 60 frames a second. I think that was a T3i. I think the T4i might be able to do 60 frames a second. Can't remember. I know there's a couple of the older ones that can do that. You can do it as a cooled camera. You're not going to need the cooling part of it. You can always just leave the cooling off, but you still use a camera. You can use a guide camera. I've got a few ones I did through monochrome through the guide camera. They did okay. Frame rate is not going to be really super fast, but you're really going to want is a planetary camera. And a planetary camera basically is going to be the one-shot color. It can be mono, but it's going to have really fast frame rate. And you're going to be able to control a region of interest, and it's definitely have to be a USB 3.0 or 3.1 or 3.2 or 3.2. So planetary cameras, mine is a ZWO ASI 290 MC, which is the IMX 290 sensor. They also have a 224, a 662, a 585. There's a bunch of other ones out there. So they have a pixel size, and the rule of thumb is a 357 rule of thumb. I didn't even know about a 3. I just knew about the 5 and 7. I looked it up, and it's actually a 3. So you're trying to find your ultimate, your base. I guess it's the best focal ratio you need to match your camera. So they went by 3 being okay to fair scene, 5 is good scene, 7 excellent scene. So basically, you're going to take the pixel size of your camera times that 3, 5, or 7, and that's going to get you close to your focal length that you want to be able to shoot at. So for my 290, it's actually 2.9 microns on the pixel size. So if I do 2.9 times 5, I get f14.5. So f15, which I don't have a 1.5x Barlow, so I either shoot an f10 or f20. If the excellent scene is out there, so you can do by 7, it gives me f20. If you do a really crappy, okay to fair scene is f3, so it gives me f8 or f. You're going to round up kind of to in that area. You don't have to be exactly on what they recommend. And this is all just rule of thumb. It's not hard cut in stone. I mean, if you want to put 3x out there on a bad day and try to do F30, hey, might be able to get something. I've done it. I've been stupid enough to do stupid stuff. So then you got the sensor size is nice to have, because what you see the picture here is actually that is one shot, one video of both Jupiter and Saturn a couple of years ago when they had their little conjunction. They're really close to each other, so it's actually barely fit in my frame on the sensor, because my sensor on the 290 is 1936 by 1092, I think it is, something like that. So it barely fit in there. So, and I had to overblow Jupiter a little bit to bring Saturn out. So it was just one picture. So I mean, I could have split it and did equal both sides to make them both look good, but I hate doing that. I'd rather just see this is more what the natural is going to look like. And your frame rate's got to be really high. So my camera is not even listed here on this one, but it is actually like the 662, I think is the little bit newer version, or actually I think the 462 is a newer version of the 290. This got the same sensor size, got the same resolution, pretty much everything else almost the same. And you're looking at, so the 585 is at 2.9. This 224, a lot of people use a 224 planetary camera, and it has a 3.75, I think, or 3.76 micron. And sensor sizes, 1936 by 1096, 1920 by 1080. The 585, which is a newer one, has 3840 by 2160, because that's 4K resolution. And then you got the 224 is actually 1304 by 976. So you think it's 1936 by 1096. That's a good size until you go try to find a planet. Not so good size. They like to hide them.
I aligned my guide scope for the very first time ever when I was trying to go find Jupiter, because I got so frustrated I couldn't find it.
Yeah, like, when you do deep sky stuff, I was like, for my guide scope, it's set up as, it's close. It's not perfectly in the center compared to what the other scope is, but they match pretty good. I mean, when you plate swap to the main scope, your guide scope doesn't really matter as much. But when you're looking at planets, set that off a little bit, and you're trying to find it, and especially when you already got a 2x Barlow on there because you just want to get to it, then you're going to be hunting and pecking. So you got frame rates here. My 290 is up on the top, so I can do up to 737 frames per second at 320 by 240. I very rarely shoot at 320 by 240 because it is tough to keep it in view. Newer software along does make life a little easier. I mainly shoot, I've done 1936 by 1096 to get where I can get the planet Jupiter and some of the moons. And that usually gives me about 95, 100 frames per second. And go a bit lower. And then I usually shoot 1280 by 1024, and then 1024 by 768. And then I can actually 640 or 40. Once I get everything settled down where I can keep it pretty steady, then 640 or 40 seems to be my go-to. And I can get up, and I got, I think, 370 at one point. And then the 585, everybody thinks that's, this is my next one I'm looking at getting, because the 585 sensor is about twice as big as the 290 sensor. And when you look at it, the frame rates are, they don't have to be super fast, but if you get over 100 frames per second, you're going to do pretty good. And then there's 662 for comparison. Well, then you have like a little target capture plan, weather, scene conditions. It's going to be cloudy. It's going to be the clouds rolling. Don't know it. You might want to look. Check the weather coming in. Clear, but stars are twinkly. Everybody goes, planets don't twinkle. Yeah, they do. I've actually seen where Jupiter be twinkly, Saturn's twinkly. I get the atmosphere is so turbulent, then it's like you must just write it off at that time. Planet location is going to be higher up the better. Any obstructions, I don't know if you got trees in your yard around the area, whatever. Planet features: red spot, moon transit, storms, rings, moon in the way. Go ahead and shoot it. It's already there. And I usually use the carte de ciel for hook it up to the big scope through my little mini PC to help find the planets, because I'm not controlling the hand controller with it. It's just all straight on the computer. And carte de ciel has the planets in there, so I can just right click on one and go sync to it, and it'll find it. And you'll find that you're going to need a little bitty You get to it in a second. Then you can also use stellarium. You can hook your scope up to stellarium as well to mount. You control it that way as well. So this is about the only picture I got here on the left side here. That is Jupiter from stellarium. That little red rectangle is my 290 MC camera. Its main field of view, and that is with no Barlow. So it's the F10. I can capture 3 of the 4 major moons. And I did this would have been for tonight, but it's all cloudy. So this is an example with stellarium. And stellarium, you can actually go through and put in your sensor size. You can put in if you got what Barlows you got, what lenses you got, or telescopes you got, and I can go through rotate and find out what's going to look good. Then we also have the eclipse from a few years ago. Bottom right corner there. Okay, seeing conditions is the definition. Astronomical seeing is the blurring and twinkling of astronomical objects like stars due to turbulent mixing of the Earth's atmosphere. And it's like, in short, stars twinkle. The more they twinkle, the worse the seeing is. I mean, you might see in the west it's twinkling really bad. You might look straight up and there's no twinkle at all. You might look to the east and there's no twinkle at all. It's not like you go out and see one star, okay, I'm done. It's like see one little bitty cloud, I'm done for the day. It's too bad. So, I mean, there is certain areas of sky that's going to be clearer than the others. So, you might get lucky where your target's going to be in that area of the sky. You might get lucky and have really good seeing. Then you also might be surprised by the time you get set up, get it configured to get going, that seeing may have calmed down to where now it's not twinkly as much anymore, and you have to get something good, or it could have got worse. And there's
What are
example of that. Go ahead.
Related to this, but what are some of the, like, if I'm looking for a good seeing time frame, is it winter, summer? Is it hasn't rained for 2 weeks? What are some of the things that lead to good seeing?
If I knew, I'd be rich, because I haven't found a program and get anything right all the time. I mean, I have shot during the summertime, I've shot wintertime, I've shot spring, summer. I usually wait a day or two after the clouds have gone away to try to do something. A lot of times I just walk outside and look. If I'm going to try and do planets, not twinkly, I'll set up and go. If it's twinkly, sometimes I don't even try. That's my best guesstimate is I go outside and look at the twinkliness. Heavy twinkly, I'm walking back in. Not going to worry about it. And this is what you're going to get. So heavy twinkly is the bad seeing on the left. Top left corner is actually a frame from one of the videos. So that's going to look really bad. You stack it out, looks to the ones on the right, and that's actually trying to be sharpened on the right. The good scene, the good scene, or even better, the bottom left corner is a frame from the video, so it actually looks better than what was stacked on the bad scene day. And then you look on the bottom right, that's actually what's been stacked and sharpened from that video. So twinkle, forget it. No twinkle, go for it.
Also, the conditions, if you are imaging over the roof of your house and it's hot, gone. Forget it.
No, my house does pretty good. I've actually shot over the house. I just got to look at. I got 2 vents that really exhaust all the heat during the summertime, and I can know when the planet's going through it. It'll be nice and clear. The next thing is start getting real shimmery, really bad. And I'll look up and I say, "Oh, okay, I'm in my vent area, so let me wait till I go through the other side, and I can go back to it." So, but some roofs will hold heat more and will heat off. Make the scene worse. But if you got any air vents, when it hits those areas, you'll definitely know that you've hit one of those. Equipment prep, gather accessories, what are you going to need, configure your scope, cameras, cables, any batteries need charging, any collimation done. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I have bought that SCT 6 years ago now, and I've never collimated it. I have never collimated my Edge HD 9.25. I've checked, looks like I might need it sometimes, but then I get great results and I leave it alone. I haven't touched it. It probably does need like a slight tweak to it, but I don't go around banging around everywhere or anything like that. I don't try to drop it or nothing. So, and the picture on the bottom left corner, that is Mass's fault. That's your guys' fault, because somebody posted it on the Mass Facebook page. Oh yeah, there's going to be like a double transit of the video of moons of Jupiter. I was like, oh, now I gotta go set up. 92 pictures or 92 videos later, you'll see. Okay, equipment prep hardware, mini laptop, mini computers, it all patched up. Drivers update, firmware updates, software updates. If you use the Pegasus Astro stuff, like the Pegasus Astro, I have the focus motors, and I've also got their mini power box ones. And it's always my luck. I go to set up, get going, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, you need the firmware upgrade on your stuff for the Astro. And it's like, oh no, I'll just wait on it, and then nothing will connect to it until you upgrade the firmware on. So he kind of like, no, you're upgrading the firmware whether you like it or not. So I want to get some of that done, pre-done. Test your stuff, cables tested, set up. Maybe you need to change USB 3 cable out if you get weird with goofy lines on some of the stuff. Might want to get a little better USB 3 cable. Test your camera, make sure everything connects. Software testing, connections. It would be great to test it all before you head out. Road trip, make sure you get it all packed up. Maybe make a list. My road trip's about 40 feet off the back door onto the patio. I don't have a whole lot to go. I don't worry about trying to load stuff into a car. Set up and acquire the target. So you got your scope cooldown time. So sometimes with the 9 1/4, if it's on a hot day, I'll set it out there underneath the patio about an hour or so before I even go to set it all up. Let it cool down. Or in this case, maybe let it warm up if it's too warm outside or too cold. Do your polar alignment. It's not really 100% required that you use a scope on the mount that's on the equatorial mount. You can use a alt azimuth mount. You just got to realize that you will get rotation, not necessarily planetary rotation like normal, but it'll actually rotate the other way that you're unexpected. Collimation check, dew control. SETs like to track moisture. They will fog up in a heartbeat. May want to bring a heavy dew nights. You might want to bring a clothes dryer. I'm sorry, a hair dryer. Might help sometimes. Manual tracking if you want to take a challenge. Your planetary software and the spiral search that I was looking for earlier. So you'll spiral search on your control for your scope could be your best friend. When you think you did a really good alignment and you did a really good 3-star alignment, whatever, and then it's not in the frame when you go to it, and you're like, where'd it go? Don't see it. Start spiraling around. It'll hopefully show up. And hopefully you got it where at least last time you did it, that will actually, you're already kind of close to focus. You may have to overexpose to get it nice and bright. Like kind of take a star out of focus a little bit, makes it a little bit bigger, so then you can actually see if it drifts through the your field of view. You go, oh, it's getting closer. I can see it brightening up over here. Oh, there's the donut. Now I can go zoom in onto that. Capture software. I mainly use SharpCap. I'm stuck in the past at version 2.9 most of the time. I have used, I think, 3.5 as well, but 4.0 keeps on crashing. And I think there's a newer version than that now. I just haven't got up to look. You can also use Fire Capture. The SharpCap version I use is free. They started doing licensing stuff on the 3.0 and higher for certain features. I mean, you still have a free version where you can do everything you need, except for like the premium features. Oh, you want to do automatic focus this, or you want to do automatic tracking of the planet, or you want to do this or that. That's usually the licensed version. Fire Capture can do some of that already. It's free. It's also available on Mac and Linux for those that have a Mac. The EOS Movie Record, that's a old software. I actually use it from a DSLR, my Canon DSLR. It pulls it off the your little window on the back. There's other stuff out there. You need the high frame rates to beat the scene, so you need the Lucky Imaging, and you better do a drive space check because videos get large, and as you're just tapping the button, oh, let's do another video. Ooh, let's do another video. You can add up real quick.
One of the I did get the SharpCap Pro recently and was trying out those features. One of the cool ones is the seeing monitor. What that'll do is you can set a threshold, and you're getting the high frame rates. It's only going to keep the ones that are above that certain frame rate. So when you've got your your video file at the end, you know it's mostly all good information to stack.
Yeah, I think I read something about that. And also, you also use the moon mosaic part of it too, right?
I did, yeah. I used both the moon and when I started the solar mosaic, it's got a really nice feature where you point basically either at the top, left, right, or bottom. It'll detect
Yeah.
how many frames, and then it'll just go do it for you.
Yeah, it seems like it's there was a script. I think it was like the Moon Panorama, Moon Maker, Panorama Maker, or something like that. I ran it across. I was going to use that, but they may have incorporated the same thing. Because it's, you find a crater that is a starter reference, and you go to the edge of it, and you go to the top, bottom, whatever. Then it knows exactly what the moon looks like, how it's going to be. Then it will plot out, and it'll just hit go, and it'll go through and do all your signals and stuff like that.
Brent, isn't the Pro just like $20 a year? I mean,
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's very affordable. I've already used it enough to find its worth, its value.
Yeah, I just haven't got around to it. I mean, I'm kind of like stick with what works.
Yep.
Is it subscription based or is it one purchase? It is.
No, it used to be one purchase, and then they went to the subscription model. I think from 3.0 and higher. And now you end up with a yearly license fee. I mean, yeah, it's like $20 a year or something like that. It used to be like $12 a year, I think, a long time ago. But I just haven't got around to actually purchasing it and do it because I was doing planetary stuff for quite a while. Then I haven't done a whole lot lately. So this here is Sharp Cap, what it kind of looks like. Jupiter's on there. This was done a few days ago. I think I took these. It was like this when we had our last meeting earlier this month.
Yeah, the 18th.
I was doing this
Ah.
at the same time. So, and then it's like you got I always shoot RAW 8. I start out with the highest what the capture area my camera has. That way I know where I can find the planet and stuff. I do SER files, which is there's a difference between an SER and AVI. The SEER file, I think, captures the actual. It'll time date stamp the each frame, and you can actually check a box for the WinGew post time date stamp on it. And for Jupiter and a lot of the other planets, since they rotate, you can derotate it. That's what that will do. Makes life a little easier on that.
So why RAW 8? Because I think it's got RAW 8, RAW 16, and I know mine's got like an RGB color space as well.
You can do. I've used RGB color space. I usually do it on my DSLR. RAW 8 is going to put you in that 10-bit mode, which is going to give you the faster frame rates. Otherwise, you can be like in a 12-bit mode and not as fast. Plus, your 8-bit depth for what you need is perfect for the planets. You're kind of like overkill if you go above that. So you're going to keep exposure down, gain up. This here got gain roughly 250. My exposure is 1.7 millisecond. All right, now I was capturing. I changed the this. I just did screenshots to show you on my camera what SharpCap sees. I can do all the different field of view, region of interest here automatically, but they already had set out. And this down here, I think is doing 640 by 480, and I was able to get 379 frames per second. And I was doing like 1 minute or 2 minute videos. If you do mono with your RGB filters, you have to because you're going to do a max of 3 minutes on Jupiter. So if you do RGB mono, you're going to split that so you do 1 minute per filter. You might do a little bit less if you have to refocus in between. But I just use one shot color, so max I use 3 minutes, and you'll start seeing where it gets a little bit of blurriness. WinJupos can correct that, so you can actually probably shoot a little bit longer. I've had limited success on using WinJupos, but basically you just want to get in the center area, high frame rates, squeeze down your region of interest to make it as small as possible so it doesn't drift around. If you can lock into where to keep the planet in the window, you're good to go, and then start shooting. And you're always going to want to focus. And if you think you're focused good enough, you're going to focus again and you'll focus again and again and again and again. I also look at a histogram of roughly around 40 to 50% on the histogram. This way, when you process it later, you're not blowing any of the features out. You're not overexposing anything. Some people I've seen they'll do 60 or 70%, and that gives you less of a buffer during processing. If you got to, you're going to brighten it up anyway. I find 40 to 50 in that target area, so it looks a little more dimmer and focus. Did I just mention anything about focusing? Because atmosphere changes. You might look great in the beginning. You'll see momentary perfect focus. You'll see it's like, oh my God, I can see everything. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, I can see everything. Oh, where'd it go? Because it's going through. And they'll get to the point where where'd everything go? It's getting faded. It's like fading out a little bit. You have to refocus. So usually every time it looks pretty good, I'll do a couple shots, look at the focus again of it, and then may have to tweak the focus here or there, up or down. That's where that focus motor really comes in handy, because I've done it by hand, and focus motor doesn't shake the whole imaging train, your camera. I mean, it doesn't shake everything out, because you manually touch it. It's all your vibration comes through, and it's gonna be jiggle fest on the screen, and be kind of hard to try to get it. So you have to make a little tweak, wait for it to settle down, and do it again. It's focus motor, left, right, on in or out, and minimal vibration. And here we got capture times, rotation times. So planets rotate some faster than others. So Mercury takes about 58 days, 16 hours. Venus 243 days. Earth, well, you're standing on it, so it's 23 hours, 56 minutes. Mars a little bit more, 24 hours. Jupiter's 9 hours, 55 minutes. Saturn's 10 hours, 33. Uranus is 17 hours, 14 minutes. Neptune 16 hours. So Jupiter, I usually limit to about 3 minutes. Saturn's usually 3 minutes, though people do go longer. Any storms in the atmosphere of Saturn, you might want to do, around 3 minutes. If you're trying to get the hexagon of Saturn, then you're probably going to do 3 minutes or less. Uranus, Neptune, you're going to have a big aperture, big scope. Get anything, even a 14-inch SCT will barely make out any of the details on there. You're going to want like a 20, 24-inch. That's one of those big knobs with get it to long focal. It might come in really, really handy. So here's our capture times. Mercury, you can do 5 to 10 minutes. Venus, 5 to 10. Earth, we'll look around, you're already there. Mars, about 6 minutes. Now, Mars is kind of weird, because Mars just like up to 6 minutes at opposition, and you can increase it the farther it goes out. So after opposition or before opposition, as it's coming and going, you can go a little bit longer, because when it gets smaller, you can go longer on it, because you're not going to zoom in and see the blurriness as much. So Jupiter, Saturn, 3 minutes, 6 minutes up to Saturn. I don't think that's surface features on that, and 5 to 10 for Uranus. I thought I had a picture of Pluto. I haven't found it. I have to plate solve it to see if it's there. All you're going to find on Pluto is a dot, like a star. You're not going to find no magic surface details or anything. So. And you want to break all your stuff down when you're done. Pack up, go home. Make sure you don't, make sure you check everything. Don't leave anything. Make sure your little focus cap or any eyepiece caps, top, bottom, covers. I've already lost a couple of those a long time ago. Any batteries, focus mask, filters. Maybe if you had checked with if you made any. Processing software there. PIP is a planetary imaging preprocessor. It's hard to find out there now. It's really old. I do have copies of it. The place where it usually be, it was on one of the Google Drives. I don't think it's there anymore. It could do a lot for you. It could, because some people, if you're going to do manual tracking, or you have a poor setup to where you didn't really do a good polar alignment, because sometimes I'm in a hurry, I'll just throw the stick open in the backyard. I know north is pretty much straight off the back patio. I know you set it down. I'll manually go over to where, start tracking. It drifts along like that, so you might have to move as you go. PIP, what it does, it will go through and stabilize, and it'll find the planet in your field of view, and it will make it the center of it through the whole video. So you can actually redo the whole video with it in the center. You can actually pull out each individual frame into TIFF files or whatever. You can make images, little GIF movies with it. It's quite a little handy, and you can it can go through and rate your frames. And if I only want the top 25% of the frames that are the best, they can actually copy those out either individually or into a separate video. Auto Stacker is now at version 4. I've got 4, 3, and 2. That's the main one I use the most, Auto Stacker, and I have screenshots from that coming. Registack 6 can actually process like Auto Stacker. It's just everybody only uses it now for wavelets. The people that wrote Registack actually now is a program called WaveSharp version 1.0. I think it's not quite 100% released yet. I think still almost betas, in that beta release range, and it's basically a continuation of Registack. They kind of rewrote it more for the wavelets. WinJu post, if you want to derotate, comes in handy when you've done multiple shots through the night. And what it will do is, because the sliver of the planet that's closest to you, when you look at the pictures, the center part is usually clear and it fades out the side. But if I took 3 or 4 pictures or videos through it, and now I've got 3 or 4 pictures, I can actually merge all those together into one. It'll take the best part of the center of the one, knows where it's at, and will copy it in. And so it takes all the best bits in that one little section. It can rebuild the planet and gives you a little, allows you to basically sharpen a little bit more than you could without it. And I've seen really great photos with it out on cloudy nights and stuff like that, but I haven't really had a whole lot of luck with it. I have tried. I'll probably try again here. There's a Link EOS for stacking for the Mac. Not that I'm a Mac person. There's also Astrosurface. Astrosurface, I think, is mainly more for solar, but it can do lunar. It can actually do the planets and stuff like that. There's the IM-PPG. A lot of people maybe use it for deconvolution and sharpening. That's also for solar. You can also use Photoshop or GIMP, and there's some of those out there as well. So Auto Stacker. Now I've got all my lovely videos. You can click the open button, number 1 spot up here, or you can just drag and drop them right directly to the screen. You can do all of them at once. You can do one at a time. You can take all, if I've split them out with PIP to make, because sometimes I'll take, if I did like 1-minute videos of Jupiter and they came out really good and I got 3 of them in a row, I'll take 2 of those and dump out all the individual frames. And I'll highlight every one of them and just drag them and drop them right into Auto Stacker, and then we'll see. Because the video here has got 20,000 frames in it. And I've done work in like 100,000 frames. I just drag and drop them all in one shot. And so it's pretty robust. So you have image stabilization. So if you're close up on the sun or the moon, you're only going to use the surface. Otherwise, you're going to choose planet. Always click check box for dynamic background. Quality estimator. It defaults to, I think, 6. You can actually uncheck that. And so if you got a little more better scene, you can do better. If you got worse scene, you can actually make it lower, I believe. It's one way or the other. It'll tell you when you make little changes right down here. Then you click Analyze button. And that what Analyze is going to do, it's going to read the video file. It's going to go through and analyze each individual frame. And it's going to give you a nice little lovely graph that you see there in the middle of the quality graph. Now, each gray one is the individual frame. So you can see, started out okay, pretty good, went down. This little spot here is probably where I bumped it and moved it back up in the center a little bit. Went really good, came down. So you can see better seeing here, worse seeing here. And it goes through. And then it's going to pretty much average that all out, and that's what this green line here is. You'll see this nice little sloping green line. So I know 50% of this video is that 50% or higher, really good, better quality. This line here, you can actually move this line here and right click, and you can fill these little blocks out up here. So if I, like this one here, I can pull 50%, 25%, 10%. I can do by, if I want to do frames, if I want to pull 5,000 frames, I can do that. So it's going to show you the frame quality, best to worst, green sloping line. So depending on what you want to do, I normally, like this right here, I'd usually shoot 25. Look what I got here. I got 50, 25, and 10% of the actual number of frames. So I'll do 3 different pictures of it. Then you're going to go through and set your alignment points. And so there's 2 screens to this. They're both up at the same time. They're usually side by side. So on the right side, you'll see we're doing Saturn here. You can go through and click all you want. I just click down here where you got 24, 48, 104, 200. You go up and down these and just select the number. And I'm shooting for a target of around 100 to 200 alignment points right here. You can clear them out. I usually choose close to edge only for Saturn, and I'll usually set replace and then the multi-scale for everything else. So this is what it looks like when now they're all set. So I've got, this one here's got 407 access alignment points. I think I redid that to make it a little bit lower, just did just more for the screenshot. You can do it that way if you want. So you got the width and height up here, but this is shot at 800 by 600. You can make the brightness higher or lower. So if you got moons in here, you really want to tag those as well. So you want to up the brightness, and then you can go through and put an alignment point on the moon, and you can lower the brightness back down. Then you got your stacking options. You do TIFF format, add in the number of frames you want. You can do frame percentages. I usually normalize the stack to 10%. So what that's going to do is actually make it like 70% brightness. So even though I shot at 40 to 50 range, it's going to brighten it up to 70 through this. I always check the box for sharpen. Nobody I've seen on the web goes, oh, you don't want to do that. All it does is create another picture. So you end up with two pictures. And for the planets, I'll do sharpen, then I'll put 0% for blend in raw. If I'm doing the moon, I think you just set that to 45% blend into the raw. I always do the RGB align. I always save in the folders. Very rarely do the drizzle, super resolution, so it's usually always off. Then you press stack button, and it's going to spit out. So here's what it does. So this is the stack on the left side. Right side is what it took stack, and it actually did some sharpening to it. It's not the greatest sharpening in the world, but what I do, especially when I've got 10, 15 videos, I can go through and look at all these, which they'll have a CONF at the end of the file name. I can just look at those and find out that one looks good, that one looks great, this one looks okay, this one looks great. So now I can go back and say, now I know which one of the other one to pull, and I can throw in registacks and actually do the wavelets on them. So I don't have to worry about wasting all my time having to do, I got to do 15 of these. I can only want to do the best one I'm looking for, the best two I'm looking for, or just end up doing them all anyway. But yeah, I did where I can do, this is the AS. So you got a frame of 2,500, 3,000, or 5,000, 10,000. That's basically the same as 50%, 25%, and 10%. And then you got P10, P25, and P50. So each one of these will have two pictures in it, plus your this little log file, basically. So you'll have this one here is the one on the left, this one here is the one on the right. And some people, it's like, hey, I'm good to go. I'm done. No, not quite. Now we can do the registacks. All you gotta do is drag that picture, drop it into here, and it will flip over to the wavelets folder tab automatically for you. So it brings up the wavelets. Mainly use RGB balance over here. RGB align, you've already done that with, I usually do that with auto stacker anyway. So if you click this up, it's usually maybe 0.1 or 1 pixel off on one or the other. So that is basically the RGB align will color balance your 3 channels so they all look a little more normal. So we do RGB balance. Let's click on the auto balance button on it, sets it up. Wavelets, everybody says, oh, you need wave, layer 1, layer 2. I have used all 6 layers at sometimes, most of the time. This one here, I just used the first 2 layers and part of the third. So I got 100% maxed out on the first 2 layers. Third layer got roughly about 60%, I guess. And then you can go through and up the sharpening, up in the denoise. That's like fighting itself. I need to sharpen more. Oh, now it's too sharp. I need to denoise a little bit. Now, there's a balance in there somewhere you can find. But I just play with them until it makes it look pretty. All I can tell you. There is no rule. Some people can do with just first one all 100%, and they won't touch anything else. It looks just what I got right there. I took a little over 2.5 of them. I've done them where I've had to bring down the layer 1 is like the coarsest layer, and layer 6 is the finest layer. So the lower down you go, the finer details you can get. Some people run them backwards. I've run them where there'd be a diagonal line here, one way or the other. You can save your schemes out and use rotate all the save schemes to figure out which one's best, and you'll see which ones are way overexposed and stuff. You can bring up the histogram if you want to make it a little brighter, or you can do the gamma. I mean, it's pretty decent. And the Wave Sharp now does a lot of this stuff. I haven't really played the Wave Sharp yet. When you're all done, it's usually just a little window here in the middle. That will show, so you might not see the rings here showing that, oh, the rings aren't in, it's only getting this middle part. Then you press the do all button up here, and it'll do the whole screen, your whole photo. And then you can do save, you just save as TIFF or PNG. And you can touch up in Photoshop if you like. Sometimes I'll take the sharpened ones out of AutoStacker and dump them directly into, if you dump them into Registax and try to do the wavelets on it, it's gonna make it look really ugly, really bad, really quick. I might take that one and actually put it in Photoshop into PixInsight and do a little bit of sharpening there and make it look just a little bit better. So there's basically a final result for Quick and Dirty Saturn, which was done a few days ago. So post-processing stacking, you're going to denoise, sharpen results, use Registax or Wave Sharp. You can use PixInsight, you can WinGew post or derotate, a few others. So this, the very top one is the stacked image when you spit it out. The middle one was where AutoStacker did sharpening on it, and this third one was where I took the first one and sharpened it to Registax and it just come out. So not too bad. Animations. That's 92 frames. That's what the math folks made me do. They twisted my arm really bad when he said, yeah, that's going to be like a double moon transit of Jupiter. It's like, oh, now I got to go set up. And that's what I did. I set it up. It was already started when I started. And I did 1 minute pictures. And I think a 1 minute in between. Did 92 of them. Roughly did 180 frames a second. Each file was 8 gig in size. So I had 756 gig used. Luckily, I had a 1 terabyte drive there, which stacked into an SSD. And that was at 1024 by 768 resolution. And that was between 9:47 to 12:55 a.m.
That's really incredible.
Yes, it is.
And that was on the 8/14/2020 when I did that. And that's the longest one I've ever done. And it took me forever to do the individual frames, tweaking them. And because I put each individual frame into Registax. Once you do the first frame and set your settings in the way you want, you save it, you drag the next one there, it usually applies those same settings to it, and then save that, apply, save, apply, save. With Registax, you can actually use a script. There's actually keywords you can go in and fill out, and then you can just set it to a list of files, and it will do each individual file, kind of like what PixInsight can do if you have an image container. So basically, whatever you got settings, you can apply it to image container. It'll do all the individual files. I didn't know that until about a month or so ago. Like, that would have been nice to know about 2 years ago. But... And then it got them labeled under. We got IO shadow, IO moon, Ganymede shadow, and then Ganymede still. So that's, you can either post or bury the evidence on how bad it was. The bottom right corner that's the bad scene of Jupiter. That's like I think 20 or 30 different ranges on a loop that you see how bad the atmospheric turbulence was. I redid my Mars, and it actually came out a little bit better. I just basically one that I already had stacked. I just didn't restack. I just took the stack and I put it into PixInsight, went through the noise X, the denoise it, blur X and noise X and stuff, and sharpen it up a little bit more. So it came out a little bit better that way. And this picture here has actually got 3 planets in it. One you're standing on, which is Earth, and it's also got Venus and Mercury. And you can see up here in the top left right here, that is Venus. And Mercury is, I think, right there.
Oh my, barely.
Yeah, so I kind of circled them here. And I actually shot this off my back patio, leaning against the house with my DSLR. So and I did like 5 or 6 different shots. So here's Venus and Mercury a little bit closer up. But I got them circled here in this one. Not too bad. So that's probably the only ones of Mercury I've gotten. There's one early one I think had all the planets were lined up, Mercury and Venus and I think Mars and a few others. So I'm a few shots of Mercury. I forgot which one of Jupiter that one is, but it got really good detail on the moon down here. So not too And that's what I think I sharpened this one through Pixinsight afterwards as well. And I mean, Jupiter, luckily,
Is that
when
surface detail on the moon I see?
yeah, right here.
That's actual surface detail of that moon, huh?
Yeah, I think that's gaining me. That's a little bit. You
Wow.
get some decent detail on that. This here is now. There's no special processing on this. I haven't gone through and say, well, let me take Jupiter out and make the moons separate and sharpen them up or anything. It's the same one shot, same sharpening, same process across the whole thing. No fancy trick of having to mask this or that. That's what came out. So planet gets a little bright, the moons get a little bright. And some with Ganymede, you get some detail on it. The other one over here is not so much detail. Now with Saturn, one of the pictures of Saturn, there was actually a little fuzzy dot in the bottom left corner, which was Triton, and it's really, really faint. You know, Saturn is pretty bright. Saturn, if you want to get the moons, you definitely have to separate Saturn out, then do the background with all the moons and brighten that up. Then you have to merge it back in. And I hate doing that. I think a more natural look. I like that a little bit. And anybody catch the blue snowball that I put in here? So this is actually a planetary nebula, not a planet. There's actually in a slide 2, bottom right corner down here. Somebody might have thought it'd been like Neptune or Uranus, but it's actually a planetary nebula. And here's the link to the software. So AutoStacker, Firecapture, these are the links. I'll leave this one up if you've got any questions or whatever. And that's the little Mars rotation that we did here a couple days ago. And we got the moon lunar eclipse. Well, yeah, there's all the links. Leave it up. And the good one down here at the very bottom, Cloudy Nights, is the planetary imaging fact. And if you just go to, all you got to do is go to cloudynights.com. You go to the forums, and you can go to planetary imaging one, and it's at the very top. They have a fact, and they have a lot more detail than what I've got. There's a lot of stuff I have in here. This is in that one, but it's got a lot more detail to go through. And I already was at 40 something slides, and I'm going, well, I think I could have done something with WinJupos, but it's I thought I got it's long enough as it is. So any questions again, sir?
No questions? Wow.
I think I'm going to have some when I study it. I'm going to study that software. There's some settings there I did. It's like alien. It was alien to me.
Which ones?
When you're on the sharp cap and you had all these levels.
Probably Registax. That place is messing with my brain.
Yeah, okay. You had area to put in like you had like 8 tabs that you could fields you could put stuff in. I'm going to talk to you about it later. I'm going to study it and talk to you about it on Slack.
When you figure it out, tell me, because it's all black magic.
Registax and the wavelets are kind of like voodoo magic. I mean, it's like they do some weird, goofy stuff, and if you play with them long enough, you'll start seeing, well, oh, this looks great. This is great. A little bit more, a little bit more. Where the hell happened? I mean, now everything is weird. It's like I did something wrong. Reset. Start again.
Start over. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put the this presentation. I'll probably send it into the Slack channel, or I'll send it to Merrill, and he can do whatever he wants with it. So
yeah, why don't you send it to me? That way I can archive it, because this is really a fabulous presentation.
Yeah, it was growing. I mean, I took forever to start it. In fact, I think one time when you asked me like last week is, how's it going? It's like, well, it's all in my head. I ain't got a slide done yet. So so this past weekend, I banged most of this out this past weekend, and I spent most of the time going through all my damn photos of the moons, the planets, and all that stuff, and trying to pull out which ones. Some of them were like, oh, that looks nasty. That's why you see some of them. This is the good and bad. So when you go through and see some of these, I mean, that's what it was. You know, these are the better ones, except for the example of the scene right there, and then that one's not too bad. But
yeah, that's
you'll see some of the smaller ones that you'll see are floating around. Get off the Saturn processing spot. But yeah, so that's right there. This one's Uranus, and that one's Neptune, and they're actually kind of like over fuzzy. I think I was done with my 6-inch, and that was the same with Saturn with the 6-inch. And then, like here, I think that's Venus and the Moon there. But yeah, here's Mercury, Mars, Moon, and Venus up there, and then you got a regular star, and there's another one up over here. And I was actually leaning against my fence in the backyard, or 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, when the sun was coming up, and finally took several shots of it. I think would be the less blurry one. But yeah, I got the little Mars down here. This here is Venus and the Pleiades. I got another one where Venus was actually in it, but I didn't find them really good. They look kind of blurry. Now here's an older Mars, kind of look kind of fuzzy. Yeah, here's Jupiter. Here's got all 4 moons. You got a moon over here.
Yeah.
Pointing with it in my mouth, and nobody's seen it because I'm on the wrong damn screen. So yeah, here's the moon here, and you got the 3 over here. So that's the 4 major moons of Jupiter right there. And then you got. So this was Mars as a sandstorm was starting to take over a few years ago, and that was the best I think I can get out of that. And there's Venus right here, a little bit closer to the 6-inch. I got a filter. I'm trying to get there's a for Venus, you can get but they actually call it a Venus filter, but it's a ultraviolet filter. And so Venus actually has cloud detail, but you got to use a special filter to pull it out. And I don't have that yet.
Okay. Any last questions for John before we move on?
That one's another Neptune one there. So.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's fabulous. We get it. We don't have a tremendous number of people that are online. We get 150 plus views of the work that's published. So
yeah,
a lot of people are going to watch this. It's very, very helpful.
Yeah, so you can go through and put the little MassFit logo on there if you want or wherever. So
okay.
I'm going to have to study it.
Yeah.
But now I see you know what you're doing. I'm going to get back with you on some of the stuff that was just totally crazy stuff like Brent says.
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's a love-hate relationship is what it is.
Yeah.
You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. One of the two.
Our next presentation is Keith. I think some of you on the Slack channel have seen the progress on the work he's been doing. And I asked him to do a presentation from start to finish. And so Keith, are you there? You're muted. There you go.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, no? All right.
Yes.
All right, so Steve's going to help me through this. The first time I've done this, I guess I hit share screen here.
Yep.
All right. Check my desktop.
You are not sharing yet, Keith.
Share.
There it is.
There we go. All right. All right, so let me find the thing here. Slideshow, start from the first slide. Okay, Meryl said I kind of fell down a rabbit hole a few months ago about the control system on my scope. And as I was looking around, I found this system, software system called Kstars and Ekos. And like I said, if y'all have heard about this, I'm born any of you, just go ahead and speak up. I've found this, and I've kind of started to gonna put this on my scope next. Anyway, Meryl asked to make a presentation. And let me start. So first question is, what is Kstars Ekos? It's a open source planetarium and astrophotography software. It's part of the KDE ecosystem. There's a bunch of software developers online for Linux. They've made tons of software for all kinds of different applications for Linux, and Kstars and Ekos is part of that. The system I'm using is available on Linux, Mac, and other operating systems. It's been in active development since 2001. The 3 big parts of it, there's a Kstars sky map. So I'll show you that here in a minute. And as part of the sky map is the Ekos, is the astrophotography suite, which is basically the equivalent of Nina for controlling all of your astrophotography equipment. on the scope, and it's also a client for the Indy device drivers. And I'll get to why the client part's important later on in the presentation. And there's also a FITS viewer, which displays your captured sky images. Let's see. This part here is for Kstars. When you first start it up, it comes up, it looks very much like Stellarium. Your main interaction with a sky map. You see I have my backyard put in here. Steve came over, took a picture for me. So you can have your actual local horizon in there, and has all the same buttons you have in Stellarium. You can put your constellations up there. You can put the, it's called the HIPS overlay, which is all of the nebulosity and all the sky images as you zoom in for all that stuff. You can put names of the names of the constellations in there. There's a bunch of tools. Over here is the sky calendar, so you can put in all the targets you're interested in for the year, and you can see when they're going to be high, when they're going to be low. I guess this is the summer here, and this would be the winter up top. Can y'all see my pointer?
It's going good, Keith.
All right, so you guys see my pointer?
Yes.
Down here, you can put your individual target in. I got M31 in here, and it'll give you the local times when it's going to rise, when it's going to be available for during darkness. There's a tool in there for Jupiter's moons, and let's see, I move that over. And also, if you're curious where all the planets are at, there's a solar system viewer. When you first start it up, so hit this real quick. It's like any other I guess planetarium software. You got to tell it where you're at, and then you download catalogs. There's literally hundreds of catalogs. You can download billions of stars into this thing. You configure the settings. You can put in the PNGs, that picture you saw of my backyard, and then once you get your backyard in there, you go through and you can draw a line to define the limits for your local horizon in your backyard or wherever you shoot at. And then when you get to the Ekos part, the astrophotography, it'll actually honor those limits. The HIPS overlays, those are the pictures that other people have taken of all the objects, but as you zoom in to objects, you can see what they look like. The Ekos is what we're interested in. It's the auto photography section, or auto photography, astrophotography, I'm sorry, module of Kstars. And up top here are the modules within the modules. You have the setup up here. This is the scheduler. This is the capture, focus. Number 5 is your alignment, polar alignment as well. 6 is your guiding section, and 7 is controlling your mount. And there's another section called an analyzer. When you start it up, there's a profile wizard, and it's kind of small over here. It asks you some important questions. It asks you, is the equipment attached to this computer, or is it attached to a remote computer? And what that's referring to is the Indy drivers aren't like an ASCOM driver is set up between your computer, the USB port, and the device. An Indy driver connects to your equipment and then connects to the internet. So you can control your equipment from anywhere you have an internet connection. This picture down here, this is just the this is the profile editor. So this is where you put all your equipment in, and you'll notice that all the equipment, the Indy drivers, since they're open source, they're all loaded into the Kstars directory when you install it. So there's no searching around for drivers for your equipment. So like when I switched from my ASI to my QHY camera, I literally came down here and clicked on the CCD drop down, and I changed it from ASI to QHY and hit save. I guess that's in German. Hit save, and that's it. My driver was changed. I didn't have to go out and search and find some downloads page and download the driver for my camera. It was just automatically there. Startup. I'm going backwards. I don't know why I'm going backwards. All right. Your Ekos has got the main functions, all the normal functions you expect. There's equipment, capture, guide, focus. There's 2 or 3 different sources for plate solving. If it has an internet connection, you have it set up to use like astronomy.net, it'll to go out and plate solve for that. And if you have enough memory and processing power on board, you can set up an internal plate solver for your images. The analyze modules over here, you can see all these graphs here. It records your entire session, all your equipment. So your mount, the meridian flip, guiding, alignment, focus, capture. Down here is your guiding for the night, how well they do a little bullseye. And so if the train leaves the rails, you can go back here and figure out exactly what happened when you jump the tracks. Additional functions, just like in Nina, it has set up for auto for calibration frames. You can tell it what ADU you want for your calibration for like when you're taking your flats, and it'll set your exposure to give your ADU for your particular camera. Your flat source, if you have an external, like some people have a flat that actually is on a servo and it'll turn in front of the camera. And there's an Indy driver for that. So it will put the flat in front of your scope, take that, then move it back out of the way. It'll park your mount when it's done. We got exposure calculator. This is based on the Sharp Cap. So Sharp Cap has a system in there where you, I forget what the term is called. It analyzes your sensor. Does anyone remember what the actual term for that is?
No, I've seen it before. I forget the term also.
Yeah, it's you basically you point your scope at a flat screen, and Sharp Cap takes a whole bunch of exposures, and then it determines how good your sensor is. Well, what's that?
I think it's called characterization.
Yes, I think that's what characterization. So it characterizes your particular camera, and then when you go out in your backyard, you can point the scope up at the sky, and there's a module in Ekos that will look at the sky and tell you what your exposure should be based on the Sharp Cap algorithm.
Yep.
What's next? Aberration inspector. Once you've done an autofocus, it takes your autofocus picture, divides it up in nine parts, and analyzes it, and it'll tell you how square your camera is to your image train, whether you need to square it up or not. This here is for Steve. It's a profile data visualization. You can take a part of your picture and it'll make a 3D graph, and you can zoom in and look at each individual pixel from your camera, and you can find the hot pixels, and you can look at that all day long. Going the wrong way.
That is really cool.
Why would you do it?
Fun.
Because it's cool.
Fun.
Well, actually, you asked that question. I was looking at it today. When we get to the end of this presentation, if you guys are interested, I'll fire up. I got my my system set up down in the shop there. I was actually looking at this 3D tool, and I had some of my pictures from my ASI 2600, which is a one-shot color. And if you zoom in, the pixels are in 4 pixel groups. So where the pixels are 4 of them together, all 4 of those pixels will have the same ADU number. And then my QHY, when I take a picture, you zoom in, each individual pixel is a different number. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I guess that's the Bayer matrix working, that the one-shot color cameras, all your pixels are in 4 pixel groups, and just have a visual confirmation of that. And I thought that was cool. So, okay, here's the big one: is the scheduler, is the Ekos scheduler on there. Once I wrote something out here, the scheduler can be in command of all these tabs on top. So it can command the capture tab, the focus, the mount, the guiding, the autofocus. And what you do is you line up all your targets you want to take. So here you have 3 targets in the scheduler, And you can see over here, like the altitude of the target and when it's going to start and when it's going to end for each individual target. And it builds you a file on your computer. It tells you what target. And then down here, you have startup conditions, job constraints, completion conditions. And you see the word greedy here. And it says greedy scheduler. Well, the algorithm they have set up, so say you had 10 targets here and you wanted like 96 captures of each one, and you only wanted it above 30 degrees and before it sets 30 degrees, and you also have your local, that local horizon set in, like I can only look to the southeast from my backyard. Well, the greedy scheduler looks at all those constraints and it will pick and choose between the targets as it goes, and it'll work it over several nights. So you can set your scope out in the backyard Sunday night, and if you got a week of clear skies, you can let it set back there, and in the morning, there's a park somewhere around here. It'll park at twilight. There we go. At twilight, it'll park your scope at twilight, and then the next night when your next target gets within here, it'll wake everything up and go to the target, start taking pictures. And then Friday, you go out, harvest your pictures off the scope, and you're done. People use this on remote, like down in Chile. They'll put this down in Chile on their scope or somewhere and just let it run. Once you get it, everything set. Of course, your hardware and your software needs to be all set up. Again, here's my disclaimer. I'm just starting to learn it. Let's see, Indy. Pulse, I can't see what you guys are looking at. Pull that over to the other screen. Indy stands for Instrument Neutral Distributed Interface. Someone developed that, gave it a real cool name. Indy drivers are open source. They're on all platforms. Client agnostic means they're written once for the client. So what the Indy driver does is if they make a change to it, the driver tells the client what it's capable of, what it can do. So the client doesn't need to update anything. Every time the client connects to the Indy driver will say, I can do these 40 things. And then the next week it'll say, I can do these 45 things. And then those 45 things show up on the client. Distributed control, all your equipment connects to a device, a mini PC, like I'm going to be using a Raspberry Pi. And then the server runs on there and has an IP address. And as long as your client has an IP address to that server, you can control all of that equipment. And there's a little module in Ekos here, indyhub.space. You can share your scope, so you can set it up in the backyard and let other people take pictures through your scope. If you would wish to join that group. And the client over here, I'm showing it a separate, like I said, later on I can demonstrate this. I can just use the start Kstars on my computer up here in the office, and I can hook to the Indy driver on the mount in my shop. So I'm not using remote desktop software. So I'm not transmitting all that information across the internet. All I'm transmitting is enough information to run those devices on the scope. And the client can be an iPad app. There's iPad apps. There's an iPhone app. PCs, the clients can be anywhere. And again, it can be anywhere on the internet. Here's another thing for the remote control. I can remote code equipment without having to use remote desktop software. Anywhere, or the International Space Station. I think they have internet up there, right? They get inner tubes back down there. Down here, I kind of put some notes on this. This is a copy from the Indy webpage. Over here, you got your camera driver, your mount, your focuser, all your devices, and all those feed into the Indy server, and that runs on the mount. And at that point, these devices don't care. They're just talking to the server. And then from outside the server, if you got an IP address here, you have an iPad app, iPhone app, PC app, anything, you know, Freddie, I can call up Freddie, say, hey, it's date night. Can you watch my scope? He can say, sure. Freddie can start up Kstars on his computer at his house. If he has the IP address to my mount sitting in the backyard, Freddie can hook up through the internet to that mount, and he can drive it in my backyard. Easy peasy. Hardware runs on any computing platform, so you can put it on. A lot of guys run on mini PCs or those little. I got one sitting here. What's this called? Little quieter PCs. You can run it on there. I've chosen to run Raspberry Pi 5. I've actually, part of the delay is I've been waiting for the Pi 5 to come out. They were supposed to be released back in October, and the Brits kind of dropped the ball on that. But I just got my hands on it earlier this week. Reason I chose Raspberry Pi 5 to run on my scope is low power requirements, 5-volt input, and if nothing else is running, it takes like 0.2 of an amp to run just the Raspberry Pi 5. Has the Linux operating system. I can easily customize it on there. I don't have to worry about it wanting to do a update and reboot during a meridian flip at night. And I can also make it do anything. It doesn't resist what you want to put in there. You just put scripts and make the system do what you want. Also, the Raspberry Pi 5 is these little 40 pins right here called general purpose input output pins. You can hook anything to there. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of devices you can connect to these pins right here. For cameras and display, there's 2 little connectors over here. There you can put 2 displays, you can put 2 cameras on it. So I have a 12 megapixel, it's called a HQ camera. You plug it in there, and later on, if I want to put a little 4-inch display on it, you just plug it in here, and it runs natively on the Raspberry Pi 5. Over here is an PCI port. So I'm putting I have a NVMe drive plugged into that. Let's see, massive support system. I'm not first do any of this. All I could do is type into Google, hey, how do I connect this to the Raspberry Pi? And I get 40 articles of how to do it. It's very lightweight. They say it's the size of a credit card. It's more the size of 2/3 the size of your cell phone, but it's very light, and that gives you more weight for glass. And as you know, the less weight you have above your declination plate, the better your tracking is and better your mount can handle. So anyway, that's my theory. This is what I had before my first prototype. I was using Nina on an Intel Nuke 3, and keeping the Windows system was fed and closed was killing me. I'd have a different DC distribution box, a separate dew heater box. The Nuke itself came with a 19-volt power supply. Well, as you know, we run our stuff on 12 volts. So I started looking around, and the motherboards on this was spec for 12 to 24 volts. So
did we lose you?
Seems he dropped.
Keith, you're connected, but your audio dropped.
Audio.
hello.
There you go.
You're back.
Okay. Yeah, my headset died for some reason. Thought it was fully charged. Where did I drop out? 12 to 24 volts?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this thing was spec 12 to 24. So I ran it on 12 for a while, and the Wi-Fi module sometimes wouldn't turn on about half the time. So I upped it to 13. Anyway, I was screwing around with the voltage on it, and I could work it, but sometimes the Wi-Fi would drop out. So I just thought I could make it better. So this is my first prototype. I had a Raspberry Pi 4, and off Amazon I ordered some what I say, it was Raspberry Pi hat prototype boards. The Raspberry Pi, like I said, is highly hackable. So they sell these boards, it's called a hat, hardware attached something, HAT. And these are prototype boards. You can see they're just little traces on here. You can put transistors, resistors, LEDs, whatever you want on here, and then you hook it up to those GPIO pins. So these came in a 6-pack, so I hooked 2 on here. And the things I wanted to integrate in one box was DC power distribution and a dew heater. I wanted it all in one place. So this bottom board has the DC power distribution. So there's just several of these. Oh, and I wanted Anderson power poles. I wanted to get away from those little DC power jacks. Not a fan of those, but big fan of these things. Anderson power pole. Anyway, so I had the DC distribution, which is just wiring them all together. And then the top, I put the dew heater. These are just these dew heater controls. I made several of these for several people in the club. These are just $7 Amazon motor controllers for a dew heater output. This was just to check out my theory and see if it was useful and would work. Chonky is the only thing I could say. This is what it looked like. It was tall, had all kinds of pieces hanging out. I had to find a Wi-Fi. I had to steal a antenna off one of my RC transmitters. So then I got onto KiCad. Former life as a maker, I learned how to make printed circuit boards. So you can download the design for the Raspberry Pi hat online in a KiCad. KiCad is a program for making printed circuit board software. You make the schematic over here of how you want to wire everything together. And then down here, you put the footprints on the board, and then it kind of guides you through to make sure you have everything connected and you don't have positive connected to negative. You don't have shorts or anything like that. And my goal was to get everything on one board for doing that. And this is, there's some artwork Steve did for me. I put that on the back. And these are the printed circuit boards I got. You can only buy minimum of 3. So, and over here you can see I've stacked 4 sets for DC distribution. Freddie, I'm sorry, there's no circuit protection between these. They're all just wired together. And I've got 2 MOSFETs here, and the MOSFETs chop up the 13 volts DC into a PWM, pulse width modulated signal for the dew heaters. And there's a little support chip right there for those. Any questions on this part? Any questions up to this point? And this is what I ended up with earlier this week. I think Monday or Tuesday, I got it all together. This is my latest prototype. I got the Raspberry Pi 5 on the bottom down here. This old cable here is the NVMe drive. I put a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD on there. That was $17 for the 256. The board was $17, so $34. The biggest one I could find in the size that this board will take was a 2 terabyte. So you could just pop in a 2 terabyte SSD. The only thing is, if you want to pay $150 for the board. All my Raspberry Pis, I put a external connector on there. All the Raspberry Pis come with internal Wi-Fi. So, but coincidentally, they have it laid out on their circuit board to accept, it's called a U.FL connector, which is the external Wi-Fi. So it's kind of like, don't do this, but here's where you would put it if you wanted to put it on there. And so there's about 20 YouTube videos of how to do that there. The Raspberry Pi 5, the all sky camera is going to plug into one of these. Down the road with the GPIO pins up here, I can plug in a GPS or temperature sensor. Dew heater outputs here, I got placed for 2 dew heaters. I got 4 DC distribution. Well, one's an input, 3 will be outputs for DC distribution. Some components on here, those are like $1 or $2 to put on there. And this little board here is for the Raspberry Pi. The USB-C comes with a system called power delivery, which means the Pi runs on 5 volts. And there's a chip I don't know if that's a chip or not. I'll just point to it. Who knows what it really is. I'll just say that's a chip right there. And then underneath, there's another chip here. So when you plug, this is the 13 volts comes in here, comes to the circuit board, and it's fed in. You can see the plus right here. So the 13 volts DC is plugged into this end of the board. It comes through here, comes this chip, and then is fed to this USB-C port here. And you plug this with a USB-C charge cable into the Raspberry Pi 5. And when you plug that in, they talk to each other. And the power board says, hey, here's 5 volts. Raspberry Pi says, thank you for the 5 volts. Hey, this idiot plugged a bunch of stuff into me. I need more juice. He talks to the board. The board says, no problem. I got 13 volts available. How much do you need? He says, well, give me 9 volts. So it'll up itself to 9 volts and feed 9 volts in here. And that also works for the USB ports and everything else. So the power, it does a power negotiation with this little board up here. So as the Raspberry Pi needs more power, it draws more off this power delivery board. That's it. I got it all in one little package. This is a video I made. I was pretty happy. The dew heater actually worked. This is a 12 volt. So this is controlled off the PC, off the Indy client. My PC is running this. And it's running the dew heater right off that board. So there's no separate board for the dew heater. Let's see. This is how the dew heater works. The dew heater is Raspberry Pi general purpose input output, has its own Indy driver. So all those 40 pins on the Raspberry Pi can be controlled anywhere in the world. So the driver, you can control up to 5 of the pins, and you set them up and you label them. And there's a slider here for 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%. You hit set, and then you turn them on or off over here. So this is the same level of control you have with your mount, your camera, your guide camera, and your focuser. All these are the drivers, and there's pins on the Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi handles what's called pulse width modulation. What pulse width means is it turns that pin on and off 1,000 times a second, 3.3 volts, and you can control it from 0 to 100%. And then that 3.3 is not enough to run a dew heater, so you have to turns on the MOSFET, those big oops, let me go back here. Those components right there are basically electrical switches. There's three pins on them, and one of the pins is connected to the Raspberry Pi, the 3 volts, and it turns that, and then the MOSFET handles the 12 volts, because if you ran 12 volts to the Raspberry Pi, it would fry it. And here's an example down here of how pulse width works. It's on for 2 potatoes, off for 1, 2 potatoes, on 2, off 2. And then 75%, if you set this to 75, it would be on for 3 potatoes, off for 1, on for 3, off for 1. And then 25% would be on for 1 potato and off for 3 potatoes. So that's how you control the heat to the scope. All right. I have no idea why my headset keeps turning off. Let me see. Okay, this is my first prototype. I put that 12 megapixel all sky camera on there. So you got my main scope here, my red cat, then the guide scope. And this camera is basically on here. It's got a wide field of view. So I can sit inside and watch, 50-degree chunk of sky and see if the clouds are rolling in. My other plan is just make a nice little video of the morning, so I can have these pictures download over the internet onto my computer. Then I can put them all into a video, and it'll just be a little video of the sky as it tracks targets, moves to different targets. But this camera here runs natively on the Raspberry Pi, and it has its own Indy driver as well. So it's an Indy driver for this camera. A little thing here, power consumption. This is another reason I wanted to get away from that nuke is the power consumption. I've got battery I run my stuff on. So down here is just a Raspberry Pi and the mount, less than 1 amp. The mount camera and cooler 1.25, and the mount cooler, as it's cooling down to 0 degrees, once it hits temperature, it doesn't draw as much amperage. And the dew strap's at 100%, 2.7 amps. That's for everything. That's as much stuff as I can turn on. And I think the nuke was drawing like, I don't know, 3-4 amps, double that. Okay, that's the end. There's my disclaimer. I've just scratched the surface of the. I've not heard anything of this Kstars and Ekos till a few months ago, and you don't really see a lot of people out trumpeting it. So you got to kind of dig it or dig for the information a little bit. There's another part of my disclaimer, somewhat represents from the documentation I may have misunderstood. So if you read something or do something later, hey Keith, you weren't right. So yeah, you're right. I probably wasn't. Again, this is open source software, so you need to be able to figure stuff out yourself, do some research, or ask good questions on the forum. There's one guy in one of the Discord channels. He doesn't ask a question. He just kind of yells at the developer. He says, "You need to fix this. You need to fix that." And I guess he doesn't realize these guys are all volunteers doing this on their off time. And luckily, there's enough users. They haven't just walked away. But the people that are using this system, it just works. They have a Raspberry Pi. They put the system on there. They set their scope out in the backyard, and they get their pictures. And these are it's a worldwide group of users for this Kstars Ekos. And because you ask them about it, and they're just like, "Well, it just works for me." Like, well, that's good. And I think is Keeve, the lazy geek, he's just switching over to Kstars Ekos as well. He bought a pre-built box of the system. There's a system out there called, or a vendor out there called StellarMate, and he sells a couple boxes, which basically does all the things I just showed you on my prototype, but he sells it for like $300 or $400 for that. There's also another distro I just found, so I just popped it in here. It's called Astro Arch, which is a SD card. There's an image of the SD card. You burn it to your SD card, put it in your Raspberry Pi, and it works. If you guys are interested, I can do a quick live demo. I've got it set up downstairs. If not, I'll give it back to Merrill.
Well, let me ask that question. I did want to spend a few minutes on Sirius A and B.
Yeah.
If we can do that for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we can. What do you have to do to go downstairs?
This is it right here. Yeah, I just did it. So yeah, you can talk about Sirius A and B, and if anyone can stay on if they want, if anyone's interested.
Okay.
If you're all bored, you just go ahead and leave. Like I said, this is a rabbit hole I fell down, so I'm not sure how many people are interested in my rabbit hole, but
okay, but it seems like a neat system for someone just starting out. I mean, if you could buy the whole thing.
Yeah, and you don't need the that board I got. You can just take a regular Raspberry Pi and plug all your equipment into USB ports and wrap the thing with some tape and stick it to your scope, and
weren't you telling me, Keith, that ASI Air took some of that code?
Well, they took all of it, but
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
they took it and then blocked it, so you cannot use anything but CW hardware.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so it basically what Keith was showing is what ASI Air took and made their own, which was kind of interesting. The way Keith's doing it, you can plug any focuser into it instead of ASI Air. You can plug any camera into it. So,
or you can mount everything on your old ASR if you are mad at them.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. You can take that Astro Arch image and people have written indie drivers for that board. In the ASI Air, you got a Raspberry Pi, then you
Yes.
have the ASI Air board on top of it, right? Which is very similar to my purple board
Yes.
that I put on there. Well, someone has written an indie driver for the ASI Air board. So
Yeah,
there's
StellarMate has it.
right. So you can put StellarMate on you don't even need to open up your red box. You can just put you can burn it to a SD card and stick it in. And now your ASI Air is no longer restricted to ZWO only. You can buy other people's cameras, other people's focusers, other people's filter wheels. And now, and probably other people's mounts soon. And you're no longer restricted to just ZWO stuff.
Well, fascinating work. That's what. Okay, let's spend a few minutes on Sirius B and just ideas how to capture it, and then we can come back if we have time here. It's 9:15. Say if we have a few minutes right at the end, people can stay on and see Keith's work. Okay. Does everybody see what Brian did? They posted on Slack channel about last night on Sirius B. Yes, no.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't see Sirius B though.
Oh yeah, you need to if you zoom in.
Okay.
What he did, he rented I don't even know where he got. I think it's Southern Hemisphere. He rented a 24-inch CDK and took a series of images. And if you go to the Slack channel, you can see it's there.
Okay.
And what he did, he took 1/10th of a second. He said 1/10 of a second frames, and then he stacked them. He didn't process them, but I bet you if you had a mask or something that you could force the dimming of A, B would show up even more. But Freddie, I see you shaking your head. Did you see his Brian's work? I can't. You're muted.
I saw that he has posted something, but didn't have time today to see it.
Oh, okay. Well, if you look
I'm opening Slack to check.
If you look at just at the screen of Slack, you don't see it, but you have to click on it and then really zoom it in. And
Is that it there?
It's there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's there.
Well, I would think it'd be a little bit further away. Do you think that?
I don't think so. It's 11 arc seconds.
Okay.
Didn't you say the Sirius is 40 arc seconds? The width of Sirius A?
Well, Sirius A is a point, but in your camera, it blooms out.
That's right. It was my camera. Yes, that's right.
It depends on the camera and the sensitivity of your sensor.
But what this encourages me I started out taking an image. I took 0.7 of a second, and it was just bright as all get out, and didn't think about stacking some real small ones. Short exposures. Has anybody else tried it? John, you said you did. Have you done anything thinking about it?
I tried.
He saw the twinklies and gave up, I think he said.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, the one I did, I think it may have been it. I put it out on the channel. I think it was under the astrophotographer. I think everybody can see the screen.
That was definitely a poor seeing night for sure. Yeah, I remember you doing that.
Can't remember.
Bill Bessler, he's the one that challenged us to do it because everybody saw his presentation last month. He used a whole bunch of the MassFit images in his presentation, but he said that the only one he couldn't use wasn't one of ours, was the Sirius B. So that was kind of the challenge he threw out. And he was saying he told me he could easily see it with his 4-inch polymer junior, he calls it. And so
visually.
yes. Well, so he tried, and lo and behold, he couldn't do it. So we're back to the balls in our court. One of us has got to be able to do this, so he can.
Well, where is Sirius in degrees, Merrill? Is it getting close to the zenith?
No, never.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty far south, isn't it, Freddie?
Yes.
Well,
it's like Orion. If you see Orion, then you see the bright star
right.
east of it, then you know that it's Sirius.
If you Google it, you see the successful people are further south, and they're imaging it close to the zenith.
Well, yeah, I think that's why Brian's. He said he rented a scope. He says he rented. No one say here.
There it is.
I think I just saw it.
This is what. Yeah, Merrill took that one.
Yeah, but that what I thought might have been it. That's way too far. It's 100. That's 130.
Yeah.
Arc seconds away.
And these are my lovely contribution here.
Where did you think it is?
I think it's like that spot right here.
I bet that is it.
And because you were saying it was like 11 arc seconds, whatever, and I think we did a little math on it.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's possibly these. And then I drew a box in Pix Insight that was like 11 or 85. So there's a little spot. You can barely see it. And I think my star, since it's kind of wavering down, I think that's still fairly close to it. It'd be nice to have it a better seeing night.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's only that was 4,700 millimeters. That was only with the 2x Barlow, because the 3x Barlow it looked worse than that. I mean, this dragged down to, it was looking like Thor's helmet. I was like, man.
What exposure time?
These I think I did like 1/10 of a second, quarter second, maybe up to half a second. And then I did a video. I did some videos of them, and they came out even worse than these. These are the single shot, like quarter second.
John, when you were taking the video, did you see the B, Sirius B?
No, it was so jumpy around and stuff. And I figured, well, maybe it'll come out in a stack. And I think since it's all blurred in there, because you could barely see it here, and when you got the star kind of flailing around its little tendrils or whatever on the camera, it just kind of like wipes it away.
Which camera were you using here?
This was my 290. And it's like, now the field of view is not much bigger than what you see here. That's like the complete field of view. So you don't see any other stars in there. That's how close I was with it.
Wow.
And if I bring Sirius down in the middle of the frame, I can see a star or two in the top left corner area. So I can't plate solve it or anything. I had to get a wider camera. I have to put my 533 on there, which is a lot bigger than this chip, and try to do that.
Well, if that measures 11.5 arc seconds, that's got to be it.
Well, wait. But what? How did you know the left-hand side is north?
I guesstimate.
Well, okay. It's 11 arc seconds to the northeast, and so I kind of always think that the east is not on the right-hand side of north; it's on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think with this one here, I flipped it around.
Oh, you flipped it around, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I was trying to look at my camera because it's not, since this is not the square camera, it's more the rectangular, and I got on the scope a certain way, and then if I go put a Barlow on it, I usually end up, it doesn't come back the same way, so I might rotate it 90 degrees, I might keep it at the same, it might flotate it around and stuff. When I go to put it back on, so it gets kind of lost, and I haven't kept track of that really good. I'll probably do that next time I do it. So yeah, this is with just the 2x Barlow when I put it on. And it's approximate north to the left. It's probably more off of that.
Well, Freddie's been coaching me with this, with creating a mask on mine and putting some different size holes in the mask.
It's like that's a double slit mask you could use.
Well,
adjustable. I think I've seen one where somebody made a double slit one that's adjustable, the window sizes, so you could supposed to make it a lot better, a little more sharper.
well, I started with about 1.25 inch holes, two of them, opposite each other, and that was just way too much light. And so I ultimately went down to 1/4 inch holes, and I can see a nice round Sirius, but I still couldn't see any.
Yeah. I think you still have too much gain, too much sensitivity on your train, and it blows up over the star.
Right. And we had your gain down to 0, didn't we, Merrill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to gain to 0 to 100. I mean, just
yeah, it was not
all over. It took even 60-second exposures. And what I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try Brian's method. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's if a 24-inch can get it, mine's only a 14-inch. You would think that I don't know. I mean, I'm scratching my head here. But
on cloudy nights, I'm seeing 5-inch refractors get it.
5-inch refractor.
Yes, with the 3X Barlows. Yeah.
Yeah, because with a 5-inch refractor gets you 1,000 millimeter or whatever, a little over 1,000 on some of them. So times 3 gets you around 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I can hit that, so I'll try to give it a whirl if these clouds will go away.
Yeah, the people in the south though are the ones who are successful. So hopefully,
yeah, we're the mid-south, I guess. That's
yeah.
But I mean, it would be so nice to hand this to Bill. I mean, because he's the patriarch of MAS, and hand it to him and say, use this one in your presentation. So it'd be really slick to do that.
Yeah, right now I got Stellarium up, and Sirius is at 37 degrees, and it's almost due south. So it's almost
wow.
So it's not going to get much higher than that from our location here, for at least for Memphis Olive Branch. I can move it forward a little bit. You're getting up to 38 degrees.
Well, Steve and I were talking today. Maybe we can next clear night, whoever wants to can join me, Steve, and whoever to do a Zoom call and just play around with my scope and do some adjustments and try some things if anybody's interested. Yeah. So it'll be at least Steve and I. And we'll
I figured on
and Freddie. We need our Freddie.
Well, we need Freddie too. What are you doing Friday? Tuesday night?
Tuesday night, Freddie, is the impromptu clear enough skies time if we can do it.
Where?
No, on Zoom.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
On Zoom. Well,
you can do all your work, Freddie.
Yeah, I have work scheduled for Tuesday night, so that was what I was asking. So, but I can help.
Even okay.
Yeah, I figure about 9 o'clock this time when it gets really good clear, and if it's not very twinkly, then I'll give it a shot at the 3X, which gives me around 7,000 millimeter, I think.
Wow,
it should be definitely enough to get a good separation out of it, hopefully. But if it's nasty bouncing around, it's not going to be worth it.
Come on into the meeting, and we'll show what Merrill's doing, and we'll show what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean I'll post something under the Hunt for Sirius B channel and what we're going to do, and I mean likely going to be clouded anyway. Just that's our luck this winter, but we'll keep you all posted.
It's the only clear sky in the 14-day forecast.
My gosh. Okay. Well, okay. That's anybody can do it. I mean, all the other people got scopes, and Michael, you've got some. John, you've got scopes. We can use all the help we can get. Okay, Keith, you want to take 5 minutes or a few minutes, or do anybody want to just drop off, and I'll stop recording here and call it into the meeting. And it's a great meeting, great presentations. Thanks to John and Keith. We're next month. We got some really good presentations again. And I want to have an open discussion on some of the things that are on the agenda if you take a look at it. So